Hey, Steve Riley, welcome to this episode of Great Practice, Great Life. And today I've called in a favor, I've called in a big gun, I've called one of the legendary practice advisors here to share his insight and wisdom with you. Today I'm welcoming Patrick Wilson. Patrick, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. It's great to be here. I'm not often referred to as a big gun or legendary. I'll have to let my kids know.
Yeah, you'll have to let the kid listen to the podcast because there you may not be a
special.
big gun. But in our world, you are a big gun. People reference you with, a high level of reverence, a high level of, I would say, respect, because your reputation carries a lot in our community with a lot of our members. You represent and work with a lot of high level PI lawyers, high level clients, and everyone really, quite frankly, speaks very highly of you. So while you may not carry that type of reputation home, which I can respect, in the Atticus community, you have quite the reputation. So thanks for being here. Thanks for taking the time, and thanks for taking the effort to be here to share your wisdom and thoughts with other lawyers on how they can have a great practice and great life. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So the first thing I want to do, because sometimes people think that as a Patrick, that as a practice advisor, you suddenly like pop out of the Atticus community, but you kind of, you started as a practicing attorney. So let's kind of back up. Like, where did you practice? What did you do? And how did you come to Atticus?
Yeah. So I'll start even further back than that, which is why did I get into the practice of law? And the answer is because I couldn't make a living playing sports. I'm a very competitive person. For those of you that speak disc language, I'm literally 100 on the D. So I'm about as competitive as you'd ever meet, although I've mellowed a bit in my middle age. But I'm short, skinny, and nerdy. So I thought, well, what does short, skinny nerds do if they can't play basketball or something for a living? And so I thought, well, you try cases, right? I've seen enough movies and TV shows, right? That looks like nerdy competition. So I went to law school just to try cases. And I'm from Tennessee. I grew up in a little factory town outside of Nashville, and went to go to college and law school there in Nashville. And then I moved to Orlando for a job out of college. And back then, the fastest way to the courtroom, unless you wanted to do criminal law, which I didn't have any interest in, was workers' compensation. And it was kind of like, I thought of it as junior varsity law. It's like, okay, if you're not quite ready for prime time yet, but you can go do a lot of depots and hearings, and there's not so much at stake, and it's pretty easy. And it was a big deal in Florida in the 90s. The law was very conducive to a lot of litigation. It was probably a stupid law. They changed it a couple times since. But it was great for a young lawyer that just wanted to, get out there and start mixing it up. And so, and then I got sort of the golden handcuffs on me. You learn how to do it. You get good at it. That's what you're known as. You have clients. But I was a little bored with it. I'm a person that likes challenge and gets bored easy. I don't know, if I were in 8th grade today, I'd probably be diagnosed with a mild case of ADD, be put on a Ritalin drip or something. But I've, being old school, I just sort of learned to manage my ADD over the years. And so I was a little bored with it, and other things were going on inside my practice, problems with a partnership. And so I was looking to get out of workers' comp and get into a different type of law in the late 90s. And I went to an Atticus seminar. Back then, they were doing these half-day seminars all around Florida. It was like, I don't know, intro to practice management or something. I don't know what it was called. And I went, and it was on a Friday morning, I think at the Renaissance Hotel in Orlando. But it doesn't matter where it was. I went. And I walked in very skeptical. I mean, Mark Powers back in the day was going around Florida telling people they could make more money and do it in less time. Well, that was obviously a lie and obviously snake oil for somebody that's doing the billable hour, right? When you're doing the billable hour, the only way to make more money is what?
Work more
hours, right?
Yeah, work more hours.
I was already working as many hours and probably a few more than I wanted to work, right? I had no interest in working more hours. So I don't even know why I went to the thing. Honestly, Steve, I've actually tried to put myself back into my mindset in the summer of 1999. Why did I buy? Because I remember I walked in as skeptical as ever. And so, by the way, when I often tell the story when I'm doing seminars to first time Atticus clients. I'm like, if you're super skeptical about this, welcome.
my first question. And I know the answer has changed over the years, but what do you think the three biggest challenges are that lawyers face in growing their practice? If you think about it, what are the three biggest things that lawyers are confronted with?
Yes. Boy, number one is so far ahead of two and three. I wouldn't say two and three don't matter, but this is the big biggie. The big challenge for lawyers, from a business coach's perspective, is this: everything over here we could call actual practice of law, right? Your case related stuff is like a time bomb, right? There's a due date after which there's a very palpable negative consequence, right? So think statute of limitations, right? File your lawsuit one day late and your lawsuit's not accepted, dismissed. You've committed malpractice. You've got a pissed off client. You got to call your carrier. You're embarrassed. You're not making any money on that case, blah, blah, blah. Show up for your 3:00 motion hearing at 4:00, just an hour late. You've got an adverse ruling. You've lost respect with the judge. You've got to explain it to your client. You might have to call your malpractice carrier again, right? So everything over here that's case related, right, has got a due date and a time bomb. So you're like Jack Bauer on 24. It's like ding, ding, ding. And at some point, boom, right? If you ignore it. So there's all this urgency driving your action and gathering your attention over here. Over here on what we could call the business management side of things, there's very few time bombs, Steve. And to the extent they have super long fuses. Over here, right, I don't think there's a real word, but I use it all the time. It's procrastinatable. You can procrastinate on it without any immediate consequence. So you've got that staff member that has been coming in late. You told your spouse over breakfast this morning, okay, today's the day I'm having a word with Stephanie about coming in late. And you walked in this morning and Stephanie wasn't there, but you had an emergency call for your biggest client and you spent a half an hour on that call. And then the day was off and running and you forgot about it until on the way home. You're like, dang it, I didn't talk to Stephanie today. Well, what terrible thing happens tomorrow because you didn't? Nothing. I mean, maybe she comes in late 15 minutes again. So, you were going to go do a marketing lunch with somebody today, right? And, but you've also got a big deposition tomorrow with an expert witness. You're not quite ready. You text your buddy at 11:30 saying, hey, I'm kind of overwhelmed. Can we reschedule on the lunch? He of course says yes. So do you go bankrupt on Thursday because you didn't do lunch on Wednesday? Right. So everything over here in the practice management stuff is procrastinatable. So it doesn't get your attention. And so, obviously we have to pay attention to the practice of law, right? That's the basis of our business. But it's so easy to give short shrift to all the business management stuff and the business growth stuff and marketing. So that's a big challenge.
What's your second growth strategy?
You got to market. You got to market. And even if you're an advertising guy, and even if you're a social media guru and maven, it behooves you to do personal marketing and still have your network of marketing relationships that send you cases because they know you, they like you, and trust you. For some people, that should be your exclusive or primary vehicle. But even if it's not your primary vehicle, even if you're a big advertiser. So I work with an advertising firm, Steve, in New York State. And, during COVID, you and I are the ground zero was Queens, right? If you can remember the early days of COVID. And so the level of fear and anxiety that existed, within a 200-mile radius of Queens was completely different than what I had on the West Coast or what you had in Florida. By the time it got to us, right, we knew so much more about it. We're still anxiety, sure, but it was, if you can remember, it was nothing like those early days. And so he's a PI advertising firm. Well, lockdowns come out and guess what? Nobody's driving. If nobody's driving, nobody's having accidents. PI guys are not signing up any cases. Right. And so he had this advertising machine going and lots of vendors and great consultants, and it all just dried up. And he made a living for those 3 months on the cases that still came in off referral.
You nailed it. The other benefit to referrals, especially for young lawyers, is you don't have to there's no advertising cost. There's no
Yes.
marketing cost. You're going out developing relationships, and as the efficiency and sometimes effectiveness of what you can do online improves, a lot of lawyers have walked away from and have ignored old school referral-based marketing. And I think that's one of the
Yeah.
things we get criticized for at Atticus. But for me, as I look back, Google can change an algorithm, but the lawyers that sent me work, as long as I didn't do something extraordinarily stupid, they gave me a lot of grace. I sometimes did stupid, but not extraordinarily stupid.
Right.
They didn't pivot. They trusted, respected, understood the commitment. And, I think some of the younger lawyers they don't understand how powerful that can be, because none of the other younger lawyers are doing it. They're not doing it. So you actually have a competitive advantage actually going out and developing referral relationships because nobody else is doing it.